everyone, my name is Andrea Miti Hamin from BEd 4. So today, we will be talking about principles of teaching. So teaching is a skilled job and complex task. By all means, it is done for the benefit of the pupils to bring desirable changes or improvement in their behavior by following principles of teaching. Principles are the pathways which helps the individual to achieve target. Principles of teaching. There are some principles of teaching which help teachers to achieve their goal. It can be categorized into two, which is the general principles and the psychological principles. General principles. This category likely encompasses overreaching principles of effective teaching that apply across various subjects and contexts. Psychological principles. This category focuses on the principles derived from the field of psychology that are relevant to teaching and learning. These would likely include principles related to learning theories like behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, motivation, individual differences, and cognitive development. Let's talk about general principles. So general principles, there are some general principles of teaching that have emerged from the general experience, traditions, and new researches in the field of education and pedagogy. For example, there are also principles of planning, principles of definiteness of goals or objective, principle of flexibility, principle of utilizing past experience, principle of child-centeredness, principle of making provision for individual differences, principle of linking with actual life, principle of correlation with other subject, principle of active participation, principle of effective strategies and instructional material, principle of conducive environment, and proper control. So let's talk about principle of planning. The success of tasks or actively depends upon the quality of planning. The desired goals in a teaching act may be achieved smoothly and effectively through proper planning. Teachers should go in the class with proper lesson plan that includes the establishment of instructional objectives in behavioral terms and the relevant and organized subject matter. The method, techniques, or strategies of presentation, instruction, and evaluation should also be specified in advance. Between the quality of planning and the success of any task or actively including teaching. It asserts that achieving desired teaching goals smoothly and effectively depends heavily on proper planning. So, components of well-structured lesson plan includes clearly defined objectives. Instructional objectives should be stated in the behavioral terms, meaning they should specify what observable changes in student behavior will demonstrate learning. The relevant subject matter should be carefully organized and presented in a logical sequence. The teacher should determine in advance the methods, techniques, or strategies that will use to present the material, deliver instructional, and assess student learning. Principles of definiteness of goals or objective. Definiteness of objective helps the teacher at every stage, phase, or act of teaching. After defining the goal, he may plan, execute, and evaluate all the aspects of his teaching, like method, techniques, evaluation, strategies, etc. For example, a teacher without having clear knowledge of the goals or purpose of his teaching is similar to that sailor who does not know the destination of his boat moving in vast ocean. Definite objectives provides guidance to the teacher at every stage of the teaching process. Planning, execution, and evaluation. Knowing the precise goal allows focused planning and assessment. Clear objectives enable the teacher to effectively plan, execute, and evaluate all aspects of their teaching, including the methods, techniques, and evaluation strategies employed. A well-defined goal provides a benchmark against which to measure success. A teacher without clear goals is compared to a sailor without a destination in a vast ocean. So this highlights the disorientation and lack of direction that result from unclear objectives. Without a defined destination or goal, the teaching process becomes aimless and lack of focus. Principle of flexibility. The Teaching Act requires proper planning beforehand, but it does not mean that it should become rigid and stereotyped. At the execution stage, the possibilities of alteration in planned situation or environment cannot be ruled out, and therefore the principle of flexibility needs to be observed for enabling the teacher to deal effectively with the aroused situation. Teacher must be quite resourceful, imaginative, original, and creative for adapting himself as well as his teaching to the requirement of the situation. The necessity of proper planning in teaching, but emphasizes that this planning shouldn't lead to rigidity or a stereotype approach. It recognizes that unforeseen circumstances or changes in the learning environment are possible during the teaching process. So the principle of flexibility is presented as essential for enabling teachers to effectively handle unexpected situations or changes in the classroom. It suggests that teacher must be prepared to adopt their plans as needed. This also emphasizes the qualities a teacher needs to be flexible. Teacher must be resourceful, imaginative, original, and creative to adapt both themselves and their teaching methods to meet the demands of any given situation. This implies that flexibility requires not only adjusting plans but also creatively responding to the needs of the students. Principle of utilizing past experience. Past experiences may be regarded as a base or foundation on which the structure of a new knowledge can be safely built. Therefore, what a teacher should be properly linked with the already acquired knowledge and experience. This facilitates the teaching act. What is already known or experienced by the child should therefore be always made the starting point of the acquainting him with what he does not know or oath to know. So, this possessed that past experiences serve as a base or foundation upon which new knowledge can be built more effectively and securely. This suggests that learning is not an isolated event, but a process of building upon what is already known. Teachers should quickly link new information to students' previously acquired knowledge and experiences. This connection facilitates the learning process and makes it more meaningful for students. So, these principles recommends that what a child already knows as or has experienced should always serve as the starting point for introducing new concepts. This implies that teaching begins where the student is rather than assuming a blank slate. New information should be presented in a way that builds upon existing understanding. Principle of child-centeredness. Teaching is aimed to bring about desirable changes in the behavior of child. Therefore, it is essential to adopt child-centered approach or student-centered approach in all aspects of teaching. The planning, implementation, and evaluation of a teaching act should invariably center around the child. The curriculum, methods, and techniques, management of teaching learning process, and evaluation all should be planned to keep the student at the center place. So this principle explicitly states that a child-centered approach is essential in all aspects of teaching. This isn't just about the content, but extends to the planning, implementation, and evaluation of the teaching act itself. This emphasizes that the curriculum, methods, techniques, classroom management, and evaluation should be all planned with the student at the center. This suggests a holistic approach where the child needs learning style and development stage guide every decision in the teaching process. So in short, this principle promotes a pedagogical philosophy where the child needs and experience are the primary drivers of the teaching process. It is not just about delivering content, but about creating a learning environment that is tailored to the child's individual characteristic and learning style. Principle of making provision for individual differences. In a class, there are a variety of students in a term of intellectual ability and other dimensions. Some students are slow learners and others are quite fast. In the continuum of growth and development, entry behavior and acquisition of abilities in the cognitive and affective domains, all children occupy different positions. Therefore, a good teaching should make adequate provision for individual differences. This principle acknowledges that students in a classroom exhibit a wide range of abilities and learning styles. Some students learn more quickly than others. The diversity is inherent in the learning process. Students are different points on a continuum of growth and development. Their prior knowledge, learning style, and rates of progress vary significantly. This diversity extends across cognitive, emotional, and social domains. Because of these differences, this principle argues that effective teaching requires making adequate provision for individual differences. This implies that teaching methods and materials should be adaptable to meet the varied needs of all learners, ensuring that all students have the opportunity to learn and grow. Principle of linking with actual life. Teachers should connect classroom life with outside the school. He or she should correlate the topics with the daily life experiences. Students should come to know the relevancy, applicability of the particular concept in their life. They will take more interest after associating the classroom life to their daily life. So teachers should actively connect classroom learning to students' daily lives and experiences outside of school. This means correlating classroom topics with real-world situations and contexts. Students need to understand the relevance and applicability of what they're planning or learning in the classroom of their own lives. This helps them see the value and purpose of their studies. By connecting classroom learning in real-world experiences, students became more engaged and interested in the subject matter. They are more likely to retain information when they can see its practical application in their lives. Principle of correlation with other subjects. So the division of knowledge in the form of different subjects stands for facilitating the task of teaching and therefore should not be taken as watertight compartments. The study of a particular subject definitely helps the learning of many things in other subjects. Teachers should always keep this principle in mind. So there are three: the correlation among languages, correlation of mathematics with science subjects, correlation of mathematics with other subjects, of effective strategies and instructional material. The product are the outcome of the process. And process depend heavily on the types of strategies, tactics, and means chosen. Teaching process for its success also demands effective strategies, means, and materials. What is suitable for the teaching of a particular subject, topic, or subtopic to a student in a particular situation may or may not suit in other situations. Therefore, a great care should be taken to choose an appropriate strategy and a set of instructional material. So this principle highlights that the success of the teaching process depends heavily on the choice of strategies, tactics, and means used. The outcome, which is the learning, is directly related to the methods employed. Effective teaching requires the use of appropriate strategies, methods, and instructional materials. So, stress that the appropriate of the elements is critical of achieving teaching goals. So, what works well in a teaching situation may not be effective in other. So, the suitable teaching strategies and materials depends on the subject matter, the specific topic or subtopic, the student, and the overall learning context. Therefore, careful consideration is crucial. So this principle concludes by strongly recommending that great care should be taken in choosing appropriate strategies and instructional materials. This implies a thoughtful and deliberate approach to selecting teaching methods and resources that are best suited to the specific learning context. Principle of active participation and involvement. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Above quotation may be concluded that when a person involved actively in some task, then his understanding increased and retained long lasting. A good teacher always tries to seek active participation of the students for effective results in the teaching learning process. Besides his sincere involvement in the teaching act, he persuades, inspires, and involves the students in realizing the objectives of his teaching. So, this principle begins with the well-known quote, I hear and I forgot, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. So this highlights the superior effectiveness of active learning compared to passive learning, which is hearing or seeing. Active participation leads to a deeper understanding and a better retention. A good teacher actively seeks students' participation to have or to achieve better results in the teaching and learning process. This isn't just about students being present, it's about their active engagements. Beside their own involvement, a good teacher persuades, inspires, and involves students in achieving the teaching objective. This suggests that the teacher's role is not just to deliver information, but also to facilitate and motivate active student participation. Principle of conducive environment and proper control. The role of conducive and effective management or control of the teaching learning situation can never be denied in a teaching. Environmental factors like proper seating arrangement, ventilation, light, classroom interaction and group dynamics, discipline, classroom interaction, and group dynamics and approach of the school always influence the teaching learning process, and therefore care should be taken to their desirable agreements and control. So this principle begins with a psychological principles of teaching. We have principles of motivation and interest, principle of repetition and exercise, principle of change, rest, and recreation, principle of feedback and reinforcement, principle of sympathy and cooperation, principle of providing training to senses, principle of utilizing group dynamics, principle of encouraging self-learning, principle of fostering creativity and self-expression, principle of remedial teaching. Principle of motivation and interest. Motivation and interest are two central factors in any process of teaching and learning. The theories of motivation, interest, and loss of learning, like loss of readiness, have established the validity of these two factors. Motivates are the potent forces that energize or activate all behaviors of an individual. Attention capturing and attention giving. The essential elements of a teaching or a learning act can only be accomplished through well-planned scheme involving a groundswell of motivation and interest of the pupils in the teaching learning process. Motivation and interest are identified as two central factors in any teaching and learning process. Theories of motivation, interest, and learning, such as loss of readiness, supports the importance of the factors motivates and describe as a potent forces that energize or activate behavior. So this principle states that the attention capturing and attention giving are essential elements of effective teaching and learning. These elements can only be achieved through well-planned schemes that arouse motivation and interest in the student. Principle of repetition and exercises. Thorndike given three laws of learning: law of readiness, law of exercise, law of effect. It has been clearly established that the desired changes in behavior may occur frequently and effectively through the use of principle of repetition and exercise. The teacher who believes in providing revision, recapitulation, and application of what has been taught by him may successfully achieve the objectives of his teaching. Practice makes a man perfect. So Thorndike's laws mentioned three, which is the law of readiness, the law of exercise, and the law of effect. So these laws, while not explicitly detailed, so the laws are readiness. A person learns best when they are ready to learn. Exercise. The more connection is used, the stronger it becomes. Effect is the learning is strengthened when it accomplished by a satisfying feeling. So, this principle asserts that desired changes in behavior occur frequently and effectively through the repetition and exercise. This, the, this is Thorndike's law of exercise. So this also highlights the teacher's role in providing revision, recapitulation, and application opportunities to reinforce learning. This ensures that students have ample opportunities to practice and solidify their understanding. This concludes with the common quote, practice makes a man perfect, reinforcing the importance of repetition and exercise in achieving learning objectives. Principle of change, rest, and recreation. Psychological experiments in learning have demonstrated the ill effects of monotony, fatigue, and lack of attention in any learning task. The remedy in the form of stimulus, variation, and other type of changes in the contents, methods, and teaching learning environment and provision of appropriate rest and recreation had also been proved quite effective. Therefore, a wise teacher should essentially plan and implement the provision of change, rest, and recreation on these teaching acts. Psychological experiments in learning have shown the negative effect of monotony, fatigue, and lack of attention on learning tasks. Sustained and changing learning activities lead to decreased engagement and effectiveness. So this suggests that the remedy for this negative effect lies in varying the learning activities, stimulus, variation, and providing appropriate rest and recreation. Changes in content, methods, and the learning environment can help maintain student engagement and prevent fatigue. A wise teacher should plan and implement provision for change, rest, and recreation into their teaching. This means actively incorporating variety and breaks into lessons to maintain student focus and prevent burnout. Principle of feedback and reinforcement. Thorndike law of effect is closely related to this principle of teaching. The immediate knowledge of the result and positive reinforcement in the form of praise, grade, certificates, token, economy, and other incentives may play wonder in making the task of learning a joy, a thing to do again and again, and an experience that is retained long. The behavior modification of students may be properly achieved by following these principles of feedback and reinforcement. So this principle is linked to the principle of feedback with Thorndike's law effect. So the law of effect states that behaviors followed by satisfying consequences are strengthened, while behaviors followed by unpleasant consequences are rewarded. This also emphasizes the importance of providing students with immediate knowledge of their results. This immediate feedback helps students understand their progress and identify areas for improvement. Positive reinforcement in the form of praise, grades, certificates, token economies, or other incentives is highlighted as a powerful tool for making learning enjoyable and motivating students to continue learning. Positive reinforcement strengthens desired behavior. So, this principle concludes by stating that behavior modification in students can be effectively achieved by following the principles of feedback and reinforcements. This suggests that providing timely feedback and positive reinforcement is a key strategy for shaping students' behavior and promoting learning. Principle of sympathy and cooperation. Teacher behavior should be sympathetic and cooperative with the student. He should be a friend, philosopher, and guide. He should not be dictate or direct the students, but walk along with them on the track of learning. He needs to be a member of a group and play a role group leader. He is one who can relied on and approached by the students for overcoming their difficulties. The task of a teaching can never accomplish its objectives if a teacher does not try and secure active participation of the students. The classroom environment becomes live and fruitful when the teacher and students work on the same platform, sympathizing and helping each other in the major task of teaching and learning. Therefore, a good teacher should always take care of the principle of sympathy and cooperation. So this principle describes the ideal teacher as sympathetic, cooperative, acting as a friend, philosopher, and guide their students. This contrasts with a dictatorial or directive approach. The teacher should work alongside students, not above them. The teacher should be a member of a group, acting as a group leader who can be relied upon and approached by students for help in overcoming difficulties. This collaborative approach fosters a supportive learning environment. So this principle argues that teaching objectives cannot be achieved without sympathy and cooperation. A classroom environment becomes lively and fruitful when teachers and students work together, supporting and assisting each other. Principles of providing training to senses. A sense are said to be great way of knowledge. The results are more encouraging when an exercise is acquired through the use of combination of senses such as hearing, sight, taste, and touch. The power of observation, discrimination, identification, generalization, and application may only be made appropriate through effective functioning of senses. Therefore, a teacher should make a proper arrangement for the training of this sentence of his students for the realization of better results. So this principle describes the senses as a gateway to knowledge. This highlights the crucial role of sensory experiences in learning. Learning is more effective when multiple senses are engaged. The use of example is hearing, sight, taste, and touch to acquire knowledge. multisensory experiences lead to better understanding and retention. So this principle points out the skills like observation, discrimination, identification, realization, and application are developed through the effective functioning of the senses. This implies that training the senses is crucial for developing these higher order cognitive skills. Because of the importance of sensory learning, this principle concludes that teacher should make proper arrangement for training their students' senses to achieve better learning results. Principle of utilizing group dynamics. Group dynamics is a set of behavior and psychological process that occur within a social group or between groups. It refers to the nature of the groups, the laws of their development, and their interrelations with individuals. It plays an effective role in the attainment of the objectives of teaching. Under the influence of group behavior, individuals think as a group thinks, feels as the group feels, do as the group does. Each group works for the better performance and it will be utilized by the teacher for the attainment of better result. So this principle defines group dynamics as the behavioral and psychological process occurring within or between social groups. This includes the nature of groups, their development, and their interactions within individuals. Group dynamics play an important role in achieving teaching objectives. So this highlights under the influence of group behavior, individual tends to think, feel, and act as the group does. So this emphasizes the group work can lead to better performance. Therefore, teachers should utilize group dynamics to improve learning outcomes. Should be able to inculcate the habit of self-study, independent work, and self-learning among the students. Self-learning is defined as a process by which individuals take the initiative with or without the assistance of others. Self-learning is very essential to acquire the knowledge in deep manner. Therefore, a teacher should always work for creating the environment of self-learning by providing suitable opportunities and training to his student for this purpose. So a good teacher should instill in the students the habits of self-study, independent work, and self-learning. So this suggests that the teacher's role extends beyond direct introduction to include fostering independent learning skills. Self-learning is defined as a process where individuals take the initiative to learn, with or without the assistance of others. So this highlights the student's active role in a learning process. Self-learning is described as essential for acquiring deep knowledge. This suggests that independent learning leads to more profound understanding and retention of information. A teacher should actively work to create an environment that supports learning or self-learning by providing suitable opportunities and training. This means providing resources, guidance, and support to help students develop their independent learning skills. Principle of fostering creativity and self-expression. Fostering creativity and self-expression are the highest level of objective of teaching a concept. It can be achieved through open-ended questions and by providing opportunities for self-expression to the learning. A good teacher never promotes cramming and exact reproduction of the facts. Therefore, the principle of fostering creativity and self-expression should be utilized by a good teacher always to get better performance of the students. Fostering creativity and self-expression is presented as the highest level of objective when teaching a concept. This suggests that it's not just about imparting facts but also about developing students' creative thinking and communication skills. This can be achieved through open-ended questions and by providing opportunities to self-expression. This implies that teachers should move beyond rote learning and encourage students to think critically and express their ideas on their own unique ways. A good teacher avoids promoting rote memorization or cramming and the mere reproduction of facts. This highlights a shift away from traditional passive learning towards more active and creative learning approaches. The principle of fostering creative and self expression should always be utilized by a good teacher to obtain better student performance. This underscores the importance of creativity and self expression as essential components of effective teaching. Principle of remedial teaching. Remedial teaching is provided to those students who are lacking behind in some concept. If some particular student would not be able to learn in this situation, a teacher has to rethink and revise the methods of teaching to make those students able who were far behind due to some gaps. He may arrange for the remedial education to any particular student or a group of students for removing their specific difficulties and providing them adequate opportunities for proper growth and development. Remedial teaching is provided to students who are lagging behind in certain concepts. This implies that it is targeted, support for students who haven't grasped particular material during regular instruction. When students are unable to learn specific concept, the teacher must rethink and revise their teaching methods. They suggest that remedial teaching requires a flexible and adaptable approach, adjusting strategies to meet individual students' needs. The teacher's goal in remedial teaching is to help students overcome learning gaps. This may involve individual of small gaps, group instruction tailored to address specific difficulties. Remedial education provides students with the necessary support and opportunities to catch up and make proper progress. The focus is on helping students overcome their challenges and continue their learning journey. So that would be all today. I hope you've learned a lot of things from this lesson. See you next time.